tradition of philosophical inquiry in ancient India begins with the four Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. These were further refined into 10 principal Upanishads, and then over many centuries, other Upanishads were subsequently added. Philosophical exploration continued as both orthodox, Astika, and heterodox, Nastika Darshanas. Astika Darshanas were primarily based on accepting the authority of the Vedas and Upanishads as foundational scriptures. Astika Darshanas include Samkhya Darshana by sage Kapila, Yoga Darshana by sage Patanjali, Nyaya Darshana by sage Gautama, Vaiseshika Darshana by sage Kanada, Purva Mimamsa by Jaimini, Uttara Mimamsa or Vedanta by Badarayana. Among the 6 Astika schools of Indian philosophy, commonly referred as darshanas, Sankhya holds an eminent position of profound historical and intellectual significance. The term Sankhya itself derived from the Sanskrit root meaning enumeration, calculation, or empirical. Sage Kapila is widely regarded as the original exponent of Sankhya philosophy. Scholarly consensus places him in the late Vedic period, flourishing around 7th or the 6th century BCE. The original works of Sankhya philosophy were codified in the Sankhya Sutras. The earliest surviving and the most authoritative text of the classical Sankhya school is the Sankhya Karika, Verses on Sankhya. This masterful work, composed by Ishvara Krishna around 4th century CE, consists of about 72 verses that systematically and lucidly codify the entire Sankhya system. One of the most striking features of Sankhya school is Satkaryavada, theory of causality, the relationship between cause and effect. Sankhya school delves deep into the close association between the effect and its originating cause. Furthermore, the philosophical stance of Sankhya is characterized by its rigorous dualism and its unwavering rationalism. It is also worth noting that an orthodox Astika Darshana in the 7th century BC boldly positioned itself as a non-theistic philosophy, does not posit the presence of God. This doctrine of Satkaryavada, theory of causality, posits that the effect, karya, pre-exists in its material cause in a latent, unmanifest form. Nothing new is ever created. Let us understand this better. Sankhya believes that truth cannot be born from untruth, something cannot be born from nothing or emptiness. For example, one cannot extract oil from sands. There are instances where we can clearly perceive the effect or the end result, but unable to perceive or may not know the cause. In such situations, Sankhya posits that the nature of the effect tends to align with the cause. For example, if one sees a clay pot, then the original material cause will be something close to clay, sand, etc. It will obviously not be a metal or a wood. For the infinitely vast universe to exist today, it should have some starting point, even if it is of infinite density. This extends into the duality of cause, karana, and effect, karya. For every effect, there should be a potent cause. The cause will require potential to transform into the effect. For example, the rain clouds should have moisture in them to produce the rain. Moistureless clouds won't produce rain. An acorn has the inherent potential, Shakti, to eventually grow into an oak tree. Sankhya posits that the effect shares the nature and essence of the cause. The origins of the material universe should also have the characteristics we see in the universe. On Earth, we prominently see 3 characteristics or qualities. Either they are bright, luminous, shining, or they are dynamic, active, restless, or they tend to be lazy, stagnated, dull. These also extend to people and their personalities, either peaceful or actively working, or resting, lazy, disinterested. The cause is further broken down as efficient cause, nimitta karana, and material cause, upadana karana. If the effect is a clay pot, the cause should include the skilled potter as the efficient cause and the lump of wet clay as the material cause. The lump of wet clay has the potential to transform into a pot, cup, plate, or anything else, but it lacks the inherent intelligence to be transformed. It is thereby inert. On the other side, the potter has skill to work with his hands, innovative designs to create objects, but the potter without the lump of wet clay will not be able to create any pottery. They both are relying on each other, and both are equally important for the final creation. Let us explore the nature of efficient and material causes for the infinite universe around us. Sankhya posits Prakriti as the material cause. Prakriti is made up of two words, pra, before, kriti, effect, literally translating to before the effect. Prakriti is a single, unmanifest, primordial substance from which the entire phenomenal universe evolves. Prakriti is dynamic, active, but is inherently unconscious. Jada. It is the ultimate material cause of everything in the cosmos, including the physical world, the biological bodies of living beings, and the entire psychological apparatus of mind, ego, intellect. Prakriti is driven by its constituent qualities, the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. These qualities stay in equilibrium within Prakriti. Think of Prakriti as a lump of soft, wet clay. This pile of clay will not transform itself into beautiful parts. It requires an efficient cause, Purusha, the potter, and his designs to become shaped into parts, pans, etc. Purusha is the efficient cause, the transcendental self, the principle of pure, unadulterated consciousness or spirit. It has no attributes or qualities, nirguna. It is not an agent of action, and it is not subject to change or modification. Its sole function is that of a passive witness, sakshan, an eternal, detached observer of the unfolding drama of Prakriti. Purusha is defined by what it is not. It is not matter, distinct from mind and ego. Sankhya posits the existence of countless individual Purushas. Think of Purusha as the potter, ready with his unique designs, shapes, ready to make clay parts. His designs and the shapes require the material cause, clay, to ultimately transform into his creation. Sankhya with Purusha and Prakriti as fundamental entities is notably atheistic, or more precisely, non-theistic. It argues that the functioning of Prakriti in the presence of Purusha is sufficient to account for the creation and evolution of the cosmos, rendering the postulation of the creator god, Ishvara, superfluous. Prakriti is inherently composed of three fundamental constituent forces or qualities known as gunas: Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Sattva is the principle of lightness, clarity, harmony, and goodness. It is associated with knowledge, happiness, peace, and all that is pure and illuminating. Psychologically, it manifests as tranquility, compassion, and contentment. The color of Sattva is white. The Rajas Guna is the principle of energy, motion, passion, and dynamism. It is a force that drives action, desire, ambition, and attachment. It is responsible for overcoming the inertia of Tamas and activating the potential of Sattva. Psychologically, it manifests as restlessness, craving, and agitation. The color of Rajas is red. The Tamas Guna is the principle of inertia, darkness, heaviness, and obstruction. It is responsible for ignorance, delusion, lethargy, and all that is dull and concealing. It resists motion and activity. Psychologically, it manifests as apathy, confusion, and negligence. The color of Tamas is black. Prakriti represents that infinite potential held in equilibrium of the three gunas. This potential is fundamentally desiring to express by transforming and manifesting itself. Purusha, on the other hand, is the passive witness that is desiring to experience. This desire of Purusha to experience and Prakriti to express lays the foundation for the evolution of a very unique cosmic interplay. They begin to intermix and set off the chain of evolutionary processes. This process unfolds in a precise sequence, giving rise to 24 distinct principles or tattvas from the original root cause Prakriti. The 25th tattva, Purusha, stands outside this evolutionary chain as the eternal witness. Let's trace this unique sequence. Purusha, the principle of consciousness, which remains eternally distinct from this evolutionary process, is neither a cause nor an effect, standing apart as a silent, unaffected witness to the grand cosmic play of Prakriti. Prakriti, the primordial matter, is the ultimate evolvent or root cause, Mula Prakriti, but is not itself an evolute or effect of anything else. Prakriti is held in balance by the equilibrium of the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. The evolution of reality begins with the imbalance in the Rajas or the Rajoguna. The first evolute to emerge from Prakriti is Mahat. Mahat means the Great One, represents the cosmic intellect or intelligence. It is the seed of the universe, the basis for all subsequent creation. In its individual aspect, it is Buddhi, the faculty of ascertainment, judgment, and discrimination within a being. Evolving from Mahat, Ahankara is the I maker, or the principle of ego and individuation. It is responsible for the sense of the separate self, the I and mine, which distinguishes one being from another and the subject from the object. Ahankara itself becomes a source for the next stage of evolution, which proceeds along two parallel lines differentiated by the dominance of the gunas. The energy for both lines of evolution is provided by the rajasic aspect of Ahankara. From the Sattvic Ahankara, the ego dominated by Sattva, a subjective series of evolutes emerges. Manas, the mind which functions as a central processing organ. It receives and synthesizes data from the senses and directs organs of action. It is often called the 11th sense. 5 Jnanendriyas, the 5 cognitive senses or organs of perception, the powers of hearing, touching, seeing, tasting, and smelling. 5 Karmendriyas, the 5 organs of action, the powers of speaking, grasping with our hands, moving with our legs, excreting, and procreating. From the tamasic ahankara, the ego dominated by tamas, the objective series of evolutes emerges. The five tanmatras, the five subtle undifferentiated elements or sensory potentials, sound as such, touch as such, form as such, taste as such, and smell as such. These are pure essence of sensory experiences prior to their manifestation in gross objects. The final stage of evolution, the five Panchamahabhutas, the five gross physical elements which evolved from the combination and accretion of the tanmatras. Ether, Akasha, from the sound potential, air, Vayu, from the sound and touch potentials, fire, Tejas, from the sound, touch, and form potentials, water, Apasa, from sound, touch, form, and taste potentials, and finally earth, Prithvi, from all five potentials. These five gross elements compose the entire physical universe. The desire to experience and express, and the subsequent evolution of Purusha and Prakriti into 25 tattvas has perpetually entangled the individual into bondage. Bondage by misidentifying with thoughts, emotions. I am happy, I am sad, I am creating, I am working. The individual now becomes vulnerable to the outcomes from this evolution, to the suffering, dukkha. Sankhya's epistemology is streamlined, accepting only three independent means of valid knowledge, pramanas: perception, inference, and reliable testimony. Pratyaksha, perception. This is a process of gaining knowledge of an object through direct perception through the external sense organs. Sensory input is conveyed to the mind, acknowledged by ego, ahankara, and is finally processed by the intellect, buddhi, makes a determinate judgment about the nature of the object. Anumana, inference. This is the process of gaining knowledge of an object that is not directly perceived through the perception of a mark or a sign that is invariably connected to it. The classic example is inferring the unseen presence of fire on a distant hill from the visible presence of smoke, based on the previously observed invariable rule that wherever there is smoke, there is fire. Inference is of critical importance in Sankhya, as it is the primary means by which the existence of realities beyond the reach of senses can be established. Shabda. This is the knowledge gained from a trustworthy and authoritative source. A reliable source, apta, is a person or a text that possesses correct knowledge and communicates it accurately without deception. Sankhya begins its analysis with the universal observation: all sentient beings is characterized by suffering. This suffering, dukkha, is systematically classified into three distinct categories to encompass its every possible form. Adhyatmika, intrinsic. This category includes suffering that arises from within the individual's own psychophysical organism. It is further divided into bodily sufferings and mentally sufferings. Example: desire, anger, greed, fear, grief, and anxiety. Adhibhautika, extrinsic. This refers to suffering caused by external worldly sources such as other human beings, animals, birds, or even inanimate objects. Adhidevika, supernatural or cosmic. This category encompasses suffering caused by forces beyond human control, such as natural disasters like floods, famines, planetary influence, or other actions of supernatural beings. The fundamental cause of all dukkha is not external circumstance, but an internal cognitive error known as avidya, ignorance, or more specifically, aviveka, non-discrimination. This is the profound and persistent failure to distinguish between two ultimate realities, the pure, conscious, and unchanging self, Purusha, and the unconscious, dynamic, and ever-changing non-self, Prakriti, and all of its evolutes including body, mind, intellect, and ego. Due to this fundamental ignorance, the Purusha, which is in reality a mere passive witness, mistakenly identifies itself with the activities and experiences of the psychophysical complex. It appropriates the functions of the buddhi, intellect, ahankara, ego, and manas, mind, thinking, I am acting, I am suffering, I am happy. This false identification entangles the eternally free Purusha in the web of Prakriti's modifications, subjecting it to the endless cycles of action, karma, its consequences, and the consequent rebirths, samsara. Bondage, therefore, is not real in an ultimate sense. Purusha is never truly bound, but is an experienced reality born out of this cognitive illusion. Since the cause of bondage is ignorance, the sole and sufficient means of liberation is knowledge, Jnana. The path of knowledge involves a disciplined effort to unravel, peel away from the roots of this bondage. The path of knowledge involves a disciplined effort to purify the buddhi by cultivating its sattvic nature and diminishing the influence of rajas and tamas. This is achieved through the practice of virtues, dharma, the cultivation of detachment from worldly objects and experiences, vairagya, and the pursuit of 8 perfections or siddhis. These ethical practices create the mental clarity and tranquility required for the dawn of discriminative wisdom. This saving knowledge, Viveka Jnana, is explicitly characterized by the realization of absolute difference, manifested as the threefold negation: I am not, na asmi, mine is not, na mama, and I am not the agent, na aham. This unraveling away from the transient Prakriti begins with the control over the 5 senses and incorporating vairagya, dispassion in our lives. Vairagya is not running away from the material world, shying away from the duties and responsibilities, but staying balanced, centered, and yet functional, cultivating a state of being eternally untouched by the circumstances. With vairagya, we conquer the 5 senses and the 5 gross elements. Human beings have deficiencies, weaknesses, shortcomings, or even physical or mental handicaps. The path of knowledge, Viveka Jnana, inspires us to rise above these, look beyond, and continue our spiritual quest. With this, we gain control over the functions of sense organs and the organs of action. The human mind, manas, is an amazing faculty of thoughts, emotions, experiences, but it can also be fickle and unstable. The yogic practices of asana, pranayam, dhyana meditation helps one gain mental clarity and tranquility for the dawn of discriminative wisdom. Stilling the mind paves the way for us to begin perceiving the passive witness within us. As human beings, the ego, ahankara, identifies itself with titles we acquire and the roles we play in our lives. I am a father, I am a teacher, I am a wife. Titles, roles are name form associations given by the external world. A person becomes a father, mother, husband, wife by either having a child or getting married. But that person existed and continues to exist before and after that event. As wisdom takes deeper roots, one rises above, and we gradually efface ourselves from this misidentifying ourselves with titles, roles, functions. The next hurdle in our progress is the buddhi, intellect. As we continue to associate ourselves with the knowledge, intelligence within us, I am intelligent, I am an expert in this field. Samkhya Darshana illuminates that even buddhi is an evolute of Prakriti. It is impacted by the three gunas, thereby unstable. The wise shed this baggage, become lighter, and continue their journey of ultimate liberation. Know yourself as Purusha. The final goal of the Sankhya path is Kaivalya, a term derived from Kevalam, alone, isolated, which signifies the state of absolute and final liberation. It is a realization of the Purusha's eternal aloneness and independence from Prakriti. In this state, the misidentification ceases completely. Prakriti, having fulfilled its dual purpose of providing experience and facilitating liberation for the particular Purusha, withdraws its manifestation from that Purusha like a dancer who has been seen by the audience retires from the stage. This state of Kaivalya is one of pure, contentless consciousness. It is a state beyond all dualities of pleasure and pain, good and evil, action and inaction. The liberated Purusha simply abides in its own true nature as pure witness, forever free from the modifications of Prakriti and the cycles of samsara. This concept of liberation is a state of radical, splendid isolation. This isolationist Soteriology implies that for Sankhya, all forms of relationship and interaction, being the domain of Prakriti, are ultimately the source of potential bondage. True and ultimate freedom is found in complete, untethered, and self-sufficient disengagement. I hope this content was beneficial to you. Thank you for watching this video. Please do like, share your comments, subscribe for more content like this.